But I know, Sarah, you've got another topic you want to bring up.
I do. If you could throw my slides back up there, I've got one slide I'd like to share. We had an interesting thing happen here in the state. The House of the Michigan House passed some legislation that would stop what they called the revolving door of legislators becoming lobbyists just right after they ended their term as a legislator. And both the Michigan House Democrats and the Michigan House Republicans hailed this a victory. The Democrats said they passed a mandatory 2-year cooling off period before certain state officials can engage in lobbying. And they're going to continue to push for increased transparency and expanding the Freedom of Information Act, And the Republicans said they wanted to stop the revolving door. They have a lot of the same exact concerns. So I thought this was incredibly interesting because we can see here that for as much division as we have in our nation, our lawmakers actually can come together and agree on certain things with regard to the structure of our government, of where the power should be and when the power should be there. In this case, they don't want legislators that are currently in office making legislative decisions in that position that would immediately affect their job opportunities, say, after being a legislator. They want this to be something where if you are in a position of power, you're focused on that position and serving your constituency, which is largely what we're about. But we're about it on the federal level. Not that state doesn't matter, but that's not our current crusade, right? Our crusade is Washington, D.C. But if our state legislators can come together when it comes to this matter on a state level, I don't see any reason why they can't come together when it comes to imposing these same sorts of limitations on the federal level. So when you're talking to your legislators, this would be a great thing to bring up, right? I want to ask you, Robin and Shay, what ideas and what strategies would you recommend to people when it comes to talking to their legislators? What talking points, I suppose, is more the right question, would you bring up to a legislator when it comes to why a legislator in 2025 should want to impose limitations on our federal representatives and on the federal government right now? Robin.
Ooh, she went to me first. I'm going to share this. Talking to my legislator is new for me. And I think the most important part about communicating with your legislator is that you do it. You know, we all go out and vote and think, okay, we chose our candidate, we're good to go. And you sit back and then watch the news, interpret everything that's going on with you. So I think the very first step is to know who your legislator is and call them up, follow them on social media. Let them know what you think. For example, this example is a beautiful thing to see them working together. We need more of working together. When I'm talking to them, I suppose I am talking about the importance of looking at the structure of the federal government and hearing the people, hearing what we want. Now, if people are sitting in the background and not reaching out, our legislators aren't going to know that when it comes time to vote. So it really is up to us. And I guess for me, I would ask them to work together, no matter what side of the aisle. It is time to work together. You know, the elections are over. They've got a job to do. I'm a constituent. Here's what I think. What do you think about that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Shay.
The conversations that Pete Hegseth had with Senator Warren about the whole issue of generals that then go out and be part of a board of a for-profit company that has contracts with the Department of Defense. what she was pushing is, and I think there's an appetite for this, that says, if you're a general, you shouldn't be allowed after you retire from the military, you shouldn't be allowed to be on the board of a company that you've just done business with, because chances are you've already done business with them so that you get a board position, right? That's what her logic is. And I think she's right. And Pete's comment back was, yeah, that's exactly what we want to do with the generals. But so it's the tip of the iceberg. I think it's opening up that conversation to not just be generals, but I can tell you from experience in Department of Health and Human Services, the same thing happens there, because people that migrate up in that organization, they then go to a think tank, or they go to another organization that is lobbying for certain things to happen, and then they eventually, when the politics change, they come back into the government and run the agency again. It's like there ought to be a cooling off period, and I think the one that Michigan had, okay, 2 years is not very long, but at least it's the starting point. And it at least says, all right, you come in as a legislator, you got to be thinking about, this is your job. This is what you're asking you to do at a federal level. We really want you to be fully committed to that job, not thinking about where do you want to go from there.
Yeah, yeah. So if our legislators can agree on promoting integrity and transparency on the state level, there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to agree on those exact same concepts on the federal level. So talk to your legislators, tell them convention of states, let's do it.
Well, I think there's an appetite for it too. So yes, I think it's time to talk about that. And I think there's an appetite. People are talking about it. So I think it's time to get action. How do we get that to happen? And I think that's your point, Sarah, is how do we get this to really become real?
Yes.